Hi, this is Dr. Valerie. I'm so excited about this new chapter of our communication and relationship. In these vignettes, I'll be sharing with you via my podcast, the Dr. Valerie Podcast, and my YouTube channel, How Good Can It Get with Dr. Valerie? I'm going to be speaking to what's present and relevant in my life, in my clients' lives, and in our world. In our world, what's coming up to my awareness and how I can contribute by unpacking the invisible so we can do the impossible or seemingly impossible when there are a lot of invisible things at play. Today, I want to talk about where we are right now, collectively, individually, and unpack some invisible things so that perhaps it can make a positive shift in our personal and collective experience. There is so much up right now in the world. The pandemic, police brutality, and Black Lives Matter movement. The nerves are fried. The nerves are fried individually and collectively across the globe. And what's getting us to this place of tremendous stress is, of course, the events that are going on right now, but also what these events are triggering in our system. So much intergenerational and collective trauma is activated. And a lot of the stress we're experiencing right now is not even ours. This is the stress stemming from generations that have experienced the trauma of oppression. White bodies, black bodies have been experiencing oppression differently. And white female bodies have been experiencing oppression differently from black female bodies. We have different histories, and it's very important to unpack our own so that we can share with one another. And it's very important to tend to our nervous system so that we can be present with ourselves and with one another for these sharings, for these conversations that allow us to witness one another's experiences. And by witnessing one another's experiences, once again, we're making the invisible visible. And perhaps we may know things intellectually, but it's quite a different thing to witness them emotionally. And witnessing things emotionally requires capacity. And that's what I want to talk about today. Capacity is a very important notion. Trauma is created in our systems when we experience an event that makes us feel unsafe, physically or emotionally. And it exceeds our capacity to handle it. And then it leads to creating trauma adaptations to keep us safe going forward. A lot of traumas stem from childhood because big events are happening when we're little and we have little capacity. What's required to help children process challenging experiences are healthy, regulated adult nervous systems. And it is my wild guess that very few of our parents had those because their parents didn't have those either. We have been carrying on intergenerational trauma for a very, very long time. And we are the first generation to have access to trauma healing tools at the rate that we have access to them today. We have science that has taught us about intergenerational transmission of trauma, how it gets transmitted through genetic expression. And we know from neuroscience about how it operates and what we can do to heal it. So the implications are huge, my dear. We are at a juncture, historical juncture of unprecedented importance. So much is catalyzed in the world right now. What we used to be able to tolerate culturally and individually has become intolerable. Has become intolerable. And that's a good thing. That's a great thing, because since it has become intolerable, we have motivation and momentum to heal and change things. When things become intolerable, we get to change them. And the second fold of this unprecedented leverage that we now have is, of course, that we get to heal trauma. We get to be the generation that interrupts intergenerational transmission of trauma. That is huge. It's a huge responsibility. It's a huge opportunity. And today, I will speak to capacity, how this applies to our lives right now, what I have been discovering about my capacity through some recent events, what my clients have been discovering about those. And I hope that it helps you, because unless we have capacity, we cannot show up for change. We cannot show up for change in our own lives, let alone for the change in the world. And this is not something to blame ourselves for, to feel guilty about. This is something to see with clarity. Oh, I need to increase my capacity. I need to understand about my capacity first and be able to assess it and see where I am. And then I need to learn how to increase my capacity so that I can actually show up for my own life, for my inner circle, and for larger and larger circles. And that's how we're changing the world, through inner healing. When you begin to heal your own intergenerational, collective, and personal traumas, your change, you are becoming the change you want to see in the world. Your change has magnificent, profound ripple effects. When your nervous system is regulated, you can be that regulated nervous system who shows up for another and helps them regulate and helps them show up in their lives and for the change that they stand for. And that is huge service. That is non-negotiable right now. That is required. We're being awakened in very powerful ways. And I sure do hope that we don't go back to sleep. We can't. And so there are things to learn as we're waking up. All right. So, capacity. A lot of women I work with are moms. And I'm a mom too. And what we've been experiencing collectively and individually now that we are quarantined with the kids and our support systems are not available, like babysitting and schools. Remember those? And the demands on us are greater and greater. The demands to not only process our own emotions and work and adjust to the world and process what's going on without the usual stress management, stress relief tools being available or not being effective. For example, going to the gym, going to the movies, travel, hanging out with friends, right? Remember how that used to be not available, and the demands are higher. And as women, we hold space, emotional space, and do emotional labor for everyone, right? That's just what we do. And what we've been observing as moms is that the fuse gets shorter and shorter. We either get angry or we feel disconnected, we feel overwhelmed, we're irritable, and then we feel guilty. We feel like bad mothers. We feel like we're failing. And that, of course, consumes our capacity even more. Here is an invitation to consider this from a different perspective. Getting irritable and angry and feeling disconnected, these are the attempts of your nervous system to restore capacity. These are the attempts of your nervous system to restore capacity. So not only are you not broken, your nervous system is actually working very hard and doing all the right things to attempt to restore capacity. It's showing you, honey, you need to rest. You need your space. You need your time. You need your boundaries. And that is a harder negotiation because that's where PSD comes in, right? Remember, patriarchy, stress disorder, our old friend, and the prison guards who keep us in this condition. So they rush in to inform us that we don't get to rest because we must work, we must be there for everyone, etc., etc. One of my clients recently had this glorious jailbreak moment that she shared on this week's call in our program, the Thriving Circle. And what she shared was that she actually checked into a hotel for a day and a night. And you would think, what's the big deal? Well, this woman has been on pretty much 24/7 with two small kids, her husband, and her business. And now, with little support available, things have been pretty intense. And she recognized through getting in touch with her capacity that she was out of battery, like way out of battery. And she needed to restore it. And when she connected with her desire, that's one of the things we focus on. That's our North Star. That's our guiding light, our desire. She recognized that her desire was to be in her own space for the first time in a long time, in years, to be in her own space. And she had a conversation with her husband, and they arranged for her to be away. Not far away, probably just like down the street. However, when she returned, she was happy. She was restored. She was able to show up. She had capacity. And this is not to say that, oh, go check into a hotel. Check into your capacity and see where you are on the scale of positive 1 to 10 and the negative 0 to negative 10. Where are you on that scale? Are you in deficit? Are you low? And what restores your capacity? Maybe going to bed an hour earlier. Maybe waking up and actually moving your body. Maybe taking cat naps during the day. Maybe taking a bath, stretching, bringing in some more live foods into your diet, more water, more cuddles, more smiles and giggles, dance breaks. These don't have to be extravagant things. These are simple everyday things. Even skin to skin contact is huge. Produces oxytocin, restores our capacity. Even that skin to skin is your own, right? When you're touching your own skin, that creates the same effect as being touched in a loving way by a loved one. So a lot of marvelous, beautiful ways to start restoring capacity, but that's where we run into trouble. We run into trouble where PSD kicks in and tells us that we don't get to do that, that it would be selfish, that people need you. And I call those prison guards, those voices, right? Those voices that keep us out of or derail us from going after what we truly need and truly desire. And I'm no stranger to that. I am on the same healing journey. I'm working in the lab day in and day out, discovering new layers of PSD. And then I turn around and teach them as fast as I can in our programs, the Thriving Solution, the Thriving Circle. And by the way, we have an event coming up August 14th through the 16th. We're going to have a virtual retreat. It is free to attend. TheThrivingExperience.com. TheThrivingExperience.com. Learn more. Join us. We're going to be working together or playing together, or connecting, learning the tools, including tools to restore our capacity, restore our power, restore our nervous system, begin our jailbreak journey, the journey of healing intergenerational collective personal traumas. And that is, if it appears selfish to your mind, I hope I will dispel that patriarchal, conditioned story with some more examples that I'll share with you. So my own, right? My own working in my own lab. A few weeks ago, I experienced a devastating event. We had a significant death in the family. Not like there are insignificant deaths, but this, proximity, right, matters. And it's something that was really deeply deconstructing on so many levels. And I'm going to share with you the takeaways that you'll be able to apply in your life. So when we learned about the event, of course, I was in shock, but somehow I was also in delusion that I would be able to carry on working. Okay, I would tell myself, okay, I won't work as much, but at least I'll carry on because, I have to. So I would show up for an hour and then I would crash out and collapse and Netflix for 2. And then I'll scrape myself again, plop myself in front of the computer for an hour, and then I would collapse again for 2. And that was all I had capacity for, and also holding capacity or holding space rather for my daughter's grief and increasing her capacity with my nervous system. So that was a very intense week. And then we were deep in it. We were really deep in it. And because some shifts began to happen. And the second week, I had more capacity. I had more energy. And so my prison guards were up at it. You must show up for your people. They need you. Everything will fall apart if you don't show up. And so I dragged myself to work, to the chair in front of my desk, and I really tried to show up, and that actually backfired because I was not able to be present for other people's emotions and needs because I wasn't able to be present for my own. And it became very apparent that the only way was to go deeper and allow myself to feel the emotions. And it was really, really scary because my belief was, one of the prison guards was that I would just, if I allowed myself to feel it, I would fall apart like Humpty Dumpty. And so I was fighting it. And thankfully I had my partner who could hold space for me, and skillfully so, because he is also working with trauma, and we work together and we teach together, and it comes in handy when we're working in the labs, right? So my partner was holding space for me, and because it was safe, my system was still fighting a great deal. But because it was so safe, I trusted that invitation and I let go. And I allowed myself to fall apart. I also allowed nature to hold space for me. And that was very deeply meaningful. And guess what? The exact opposite thing happened to what I was expecting and what I was fearing. Instead of falling apart like Humpty Dumpty to never come together again, I actually increased my capacity. I connected more deeply with myself and with others, and capacity opened up, and joy started coming in. Joy, vitality. What a very unexpected outcome. So, if like we cannot have capacity for anybody else unless we tend to what's present for us. It is compromised. We can still keep on giving from near empty for a long time and go into the deficit. But it's a much better route. It's much better ROI to do the work ourselves so that we can give from overflow and without feeling depleted, but while feeling at our capacity, right? Or in our capacity. So, and I recognize that it's hard to go there without support. And like I said before, we do need other people's nervous systems to plug into in order to increase our capacity. So that is one reason among many to join us at the Thriving Experience. We're going to be plugging into the collective nervous system and increasing our capacity together. Another very important thing that my compromised capacity taught me was it taught me to see how far outside of my capacity I had been functioning for years. And it was only when I lost pretty much all capacity physically, I couldn't function, that I started looking at my schedule, at my task list, at the things I needed to delegate, asking for help, something that has been very, very, very challenging and confronting for me. And that again is PSD, one of the prison guards, and it's a very powerful one with high achieving women, telling us that we must be able to do it all by ourselves. What a crock of garbage. What is that? Why? Have you ever thought about why? Why do we have this anti-dependent value? Well, one of the great patriarchal strategies of domination is divide and conquer. If we are convinced that it's noble and right to be able to handle everything by ourselves, then we're no threat, because there's only so much we can do by ourselves. And we burn out eventually, sooner or later. The strength is in connection. The strength is in letting go. And that is very hard also, because the PSD prison guards go, no, but you must be able to handle it. You're a strong woman. You must be able to do it. And calling this out for what it is, that these are the tokens of conditional worth that we were taught to collect to survive under patriarchy. And again, this is garbage. We don't need tokens of conditional worth. We are unconditionally worthy. And our true power is in being able to collaborate with each other, connect, support each other. How powerful is that? And of course, that requires us to heal the wounds that make us feel shame, that make us feel not okay. Because as long as that's what's operating in our system, we're likely to stay in silos that don't allow the support to come in, because there is that deep feeling that we're not worthy of support, that is masked by the prison guard of, I am a strong woman, I must be able to do it all myself. So see if that resonates with you, and maybe you can start taking that into your life and saying, oh my gosh, if I am operating above my capacity, maybe there are some balls I can drop. Maybe there is some help I can receive. There's an extreme example that happened in my partner Jeffrey observed in his practice. One of the women he worked with broke her arm, and she was a very high achieving woman, very self-reliant, and she continued somehow doing everything and then some that she would do before she broke her arm. And then she broke her other arm. I kid you not, that happened. And that was her wake-up call to allow help to come in, to allow herself to receive help. She had to break 2 arms. And I suffered a death in my family. These are big wake-up calls. Big wake-up calls. Perhaps we can wake up sooner. Perhaps we can wake up in a more gentle way when we talk about it and we make ourselves and one another aware. Where's your capacity at? Start asking yourself, start measuring your capacity, tapping into your capacity, and recognize that, well, first of all, what's taking up much of your capacity right now, it's not even yours. It is the extreme stress and nervous system activation, because all of this intergenerational and collective trauma is up, okay? So our capacity is already very much compromised. Plus, taking care of everybody, huge learning curve in terms of this virtual living, very little support with the house, with the kids, with everything is stressful. Even going to the grocery store is extra stressful. So giving yourself the grace of understanding, wait a minute, how can I be expected to function at the same level? And of course, patriarchy expects us to function at the same level, not only externalized, external patriarchy, but also internalized. Those prison guards that I encountered face to face when I was negotiating my loss of capacity through grief. And as this is becoming more visible, so things will become more possible. Things such as measuring your capacity, knowing how to restore your capacity, exploring different things. Will taking that extra hour to sleep restore my capacity? Taking an hour of alone time. Yes, you can do it. You can do it. You can get creative and get this done. And maybe some ways will not be available to you, but other ways will be, okay? Some things may not be possible, other ways will be. So don't tell me that there is nothing you can do to start increasing your capacity. There is something that you can come up with. I guarantee it. Even cozying up with your favorite blanket, spending a few minutes breathing will help prop up your capacity so you can show up in your own life. When our capacity is compromised, we are reinstating our boundaries through whatever means necessary. And these are driven by fight, flight, freeze reactions. We start stonewalling people. We start attacking people and ourselves. So there's fight, flight, freeze energy running in our system. And that's not the resort we want to resort to. But what's the option? The option is to wake up to the situation sooner, or if you were in the situation of fight, flight, freeze, get serious about restoring your nervous system and restoring your capacity. Get serious about it, like your life depends on it, because truly it does. Pretty much every health condition is correlated with stress and then trauma that underlies it. They've done studies that show a strong link between trauma and negative health and other life outcomes. And it doesn't have to be this way, because trauma is not a life sentence. It only is. when we don't pay attention to it, we don't heal it. And now we're living in this unique time when we're that generation that holds in our hands the technologies to heal trauma, the scientific knowledge that helps us see the invisible traumas. And that is how we change the world, by increasing our capacity, healing our traumas so we don't pass them along to our children. And so we can show up for challenging conversations, for big actions, for our heart's desires, our desires for our own lives, our desires for the world, so that we can create a life and the world designed by our desires, so we can come in dialogue with one another across racial and gender divides. These are unfortunately divides. Divide and conquer. Every oppressive system has created these divide and conquer policies, and we have deeply internalized those. And those oppressive systems have created deep trauma in us all, different traumas. And nevertheless, they are traumas to be healed, so that we can show up, be present for ourselves, for one another, and have open conversations, can be present with empathy, can be present with big emotions, without burning out, without freaking out, without going into fight, flight, freeze. No, there is a better way. There is a more effective way. And that is what's called upon now. So I hope that this was helpful to you to start seeing things differently, questioning things, and shifting things in your life. I hope to see you at the Thriving Experience, August 14th through the 16th. We'll be playing full out. Our first experience was in May, and it was legendary. Check out the hashtag The Thriving Experience on Instagram, and there's some activity on Facebook as well. But Instagram is a more comprehensive picture. Follow me there, by the way, Dr. Valerie Rein. And I hope that we'll have a lot more amazing breakthroughs. I call them jailbreak moments in our own lives and for the world, that will come out of these conversations and will come out of our shared experience at the deep dive virtual retreat. To register, head on over to thethrivingexperience.com and please share with women who you desire to bring along with you on this journey of uncovering and healing intergenerational, collective, and personal trauma, on this journey of recognizing there is nothing wrong with us, and learning cutting-edge tools to heal, restore, and end the cycle of trauma transmission, of oppression from one generation to another. If we can do that, can you think of a better investment of your time, energy, than this work on the planet right now? I'm biased. I know I'm biased. But living this work every day and knowing what it can open up for me and seeing what opens up for our clients. By the way, at thethrivingexperience.com, you can check out some testimonials, some shares that happened from the virtual experience itself, right? Remember, it's free to attend. And of course, in our programs, we witness these transformations daily, but we didn't know what would be possible in a 3-day virtual experience with women from all over the world who may have not have done this work or similar work before, and amazing things, as it turns out, are possible. So please show up, bring others, and let's be the change. Let's embody the change that we want to see in the world. Thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure changing the world with you. If you want to hear from me and connect also in a written form, my newsletter, you can now subscribe to it at drvalerie.com. Grab the first chapter of my book, Patriarchy Stress Disorder, The Invisible Inner Barrier to Women's Happiness and Fulfillment, as your gift. You can download the book resources. And when you register for the event, by the way, you will receive a virtual goodie bag with practices that you can start applying right now to regulate your nervous system, to start shifting from survival to thriving, even before we get together and have the opportunity to plug our nervous system into the collective nervous system and regulate together. So here is to how good can it get for all. And once again, thank you. It's a pleasure changing the world with you.